Welcome back, everybody. This is Calvenn Starre, and you're joining us for our webinar series, The Advancement in Leadership, a webinar training series on the book, The Disciplined Leader by John Manning. Really a great 52-chapter book on leadership in the corporate world, and I'm kind of translating that into the network marketing industry, so you're at the right place, don't worry. And, you know, it's exciting to be able to do this because I can take information from when I was an affiliate versus when I was in a corporate position and just on the outside as well, and kind of piece everything together, because it's an interesting dynamic when you've got companies and you've got teams and companies within teams and teams within companies. It's crazy. So you've joined us. We're doing this week by week, and so we'll cover a chapter each week. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel here, and you'll get an actual update whenever these YouTube videos get uploaded, and I look forward to it. So one of the things that we do, and this chapter is a really great chapter, especially in this industry of network marketing, is chapter 47 is avoid the flavor of the month syndrome. And obviously that's a great thing for any corporate organization to understand, but even more so when it comes to network marketing, because there's always something amazing out there. Now, before we jump into this, what we like to do here is we like to integrate the information, because this is not just about filling your head full of ideas. It's about integrating it so that it becomes unknown or known, but at an unknown level. It's like that unconscious knowing of something. And so what we do is we integrate. We go back 3 months. We go back into the integration process for 3 chapters. And I kind of just recall the information. It's very short. It's very, it's very unscripted, that's for sure. And I just look at the title and I kind of give you my feedback on what I remember that chapter being about and what it meant to me. Chapter 44 was cultivate curiosity. And this, for me, was all about the idea of really creating that curiosity within people to have them become engaged. You know, when people are naturally curious about a product or a company or an individual, they will have a natural curiosity about it, about why it works, why it does that, what's this part of the company, who's running it, doing this, all this kind of stuff. So what you want to do when you get people involved in your network marketing company is you want to cultivate curiosity again, because a lot of people have lost it. They have just been completely hammered with advertising and schooling and all this stuff where people have told them what to do, even their jobs, and they have no natural curiosity more because they're just told what to do all the day. So when you're building an organization, if you can create and cultivate a curiosity in people, it will get them to become more engaged. It will get them to become more inquisitive about what's going on, and maybe they'll have some mini breakthroughs that will really allow them to line up with the energies of the company or the product or whatever it is and create success for themselves. And a lot of times that's what happens when people create that success for the first time in their network marketing industry. It's about that curiosity, a natural curiosity. What can I do to make this better? Or what can I do to really make this work? Now, chapter 45, pick your battles. This is another one too that's a really powerful thing for you, because you're not going to be able to obviously dictate and change everything that you don't like about a company or product or compensation plan, all that. So pick your battles. Really understand that obviously when a company comes out, they put a lot of time and energy into the thought process, the ideas, the scripts, the ingredients, the compensation plan, everything. So you coming in first off and just start, criticizing everything and saying, oh, you should have done it this way, probably not going to be the best battle to pick. But when it comes to little things like, you've got to find out what battles are really going to help you ultimately win this idea of a war, and really help you know that, a lot of times when you're completely drained at the end of the day, or that you're completely just exhausted, it's because you're picking the wrong battles. You've got to start picking battles that bring fulfillment and joy and energy to your life, rather than the ones that completely tear you down and mentally fatigue you, because that's not going to support anybody. You're going to fight that battle and it's going to drain you completely, and then you're going to go home and then you're going to drain everybody else there. So really be conscious of which battles you're picking and why, because a lot of times it's just ego. It's just something that you kind of come across and you realize that, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that I care, right? It shouldn't make a difference. It shouldn't matter. And so chapter 45 was about picking your battles. And then last week was about avoid the dangerous gap between good ideas and execution. And that, in this term of network marketing for me, is about really when somebody comes into your business as a customer or as an affiliate or an independent rep, You need to get them product in their hands ASAP, like on the spot if you can give them something, because they have a really great idea. They're obviously sold on what you're sharing, but the challenge happens is, it's called buyer's remorse. It's called getting confronted by friends and family when they go home, and you've got to really put this in context to allow them to have the product on their plates, to be able to say, no, here it is, it's right here, let's all try it. And that will usually overcome any type of resistance or objection. It's not always going to work, but it's much better to have something in their hands and close that gap, so to speak, on that good idea, and give them the way to execute getting into business or trying the product with other people. Because if you do that, you could also just instigate an immediate second order, third order, fourth order, fifth order, whatever it is. So avoid that dangerous gap by really budgeting and figuring out what you need to do in order to have product on hand so that you can get it out there to people and they can have an incredible experience when they come across it with you. All right, so let's get into avoid the flavor of the month. One of my favorites, Tony Robbins. For changes to be of any true value, they've got to be lasting and consistent. And for me, this whole flavor of the month thing boils down to consistency. And I'll do a webinar on consistency alone. It could take days to really get to understand what it means to people about consistency. Consistency is the one thing that is, it's almost an oxymoron, because at some level we're always changing. We're evolving as people and animals and things, and all the things in life are evolving. Like, look at the technology that we've had even since when I grew up born in 1972, and what we've seen in the 44 years that I've been on this planet has been tremendous, and it hasn't been consistent. So it's a little bit of an oxymoron to say, okay, you've got to be consistent, but you also have to be willing to go with change. Because consistency for what we're talking about here is that daily action on what you need to do that's working and going to work for you. And Tony Robbins talks about this in that way. It's like, for any true value, if you're going to have value for people, you have to be something that's lasting and consistent. You have to be consistently available for people. You have to be consistently open and communicate with people if you want to have a relationship with them or be in business with them. And so that's what we're talking about here. And not just, I'm sure some of you out there know it or see people that, they change companies week after week, month after month. And it's like, wow, it's no wonder they struggle, because they're not consistent, and nobody wants to get in business or in bed with somebody who's jumping around. It makes sense, right? Now, Bill Rogers says, to be a consistent winner means preparing not just one day, 1 month, or even 1 year, but for a lifetime. And that's true too. This isn't a get rich quick scam or scheme or whatever it is. It's not a Ponzi scheme. To be consistently successful in network marketing is that you have to think about it from a daily, a monthly, a yearly perspective, and even a lifetime perspective, because it's going to always be changing, right? So you have to be consistent to overcome that change. So let's get into the chapter. Avoid, darn it, I forgot to change the settings. So just remove that part, chapter 46, and just remember chapter 47. Avoid the flavor of the month, right? So the best of the best stay focused on their key strategies or systems. So the best of the best stay focused. They don't jump from company to company. They don't, you can't have a successful company that's always changing the ingredients of a product, or always changing the compensation plan, or always changing all the things that go on. It's like they have to stay focused. They have to stay true to what their strategy or their system is. So you must stay consistent and on the course to reach where you want to go. So, you don't start driving on a road trip to, let's say, Atlanta, and then get off and just stop and turn around and come back home. You've got to really stay focused and consistent in your course, or you're never going to get to where you're going to go. Constantly changing your ways is not a good thing when things are working for you. So, stay focused on the things that are working for you. Like if you're doing 3-way calls and they work, or if you're posting on Facebook, it works. Stay true to those, because those are your bread and butter. But when a new idea comes along, you could try it out, but don't give up on what's working for you. That's the most important part. Then learning something new about learning something new should never stop you from doing what always works. That's just what I just said. So when you learn something new, don't stop what's working. Add it in. See if you can add a little bit of it in at a time and create that success model for yourself to say, okay, I'm doing really great here, but I'm going to add this little extra thing on here and see what happens. And go at it from that. Don't drop everything, right, and start doing this new thing because you think it's going to be the greatest thing. It may not be, and that's going to hurt you in the long run. Stay focused on your vital few that make up the largest pieces of your business. So everybody has a vital few. Like some people are really big on three-way calls, which are like tremendous in this industry because it's a validation. When you've been talking with friends and family and all this kind of stuff for so long, they know you. They're just kind of, it's like, oh, it's Calvin again, and he's talking about this product and or whatever. So you've got to do three-way calls in order to validate who you are and what the company or the product is. And so that may be a vital few for you. Other people may be internet marketing. I don't know. It's like whatever it is for you, or it's a home party that you do and showcase your product. Those are the things that you can't stop unless you're willing to lose the business, okay? Now, new ideas cannot be measured when you will eventually, so what he's saying in the book, new ideas cannot always be measured, and you will eventually learn that what gets measured gets done. So when you have something new, you don't always know how it's going to work out. That's why we have things like ROI, which is like return on investment. And a lot of times when something's brand new, they don't have an ROI because they don't know how it's going to work. But what you realize is the things that you can measure, the things that you can track and can get a result from or look in your past, that's what's going to get done because that's what's getting measured in this process. So remember that if you can't measure, it's probably because it's something new and it's not yet set. And so don't make it your end-all be-all thing. Make sure that you stick with things that you have been doing that have been working for you. Now, how to prevent the flavor of the month is here in the book. He says the number one thing that you can do is create a consensus during planning. Get everyone behind the strategies and people will become invested and have ownership in the process. If you just tell people to do something, they are not likely to do it. You must engage them. So what he's saying here is that, when there's a new idea, get people to really buy into it and start thinking of ideas and talking about it and telling people how they're going to do it or what they're going to do. And I've learned this from corporate. I've learned this from being a leader in the field. If you just tell people to do something, they're not always going to do it. A lot of times they're not going to do it because you're just telling them to do it. But if they understand and commit to it publicly or socially, that this is something that they're going to do, or they understand why they're doing something, they've actually worked themselves through the process, then they'll actually most likely do it because they understand why. But it's like telling your kids, well, clean your room. And it's like they don't understand that if they don't clean the room, in about a month, it's going to be an absolute pigsty and a place of germs and all this kind of stuff that's going on there. But if you have them walk through it and you kind of take them along the process of what's going to happen and see something and watch it completely get out of hand, then they're more likely to go, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so a lot of times that's how we learn. That's one of the things my son's learning about, like chores. He knows that if he doesn't do them, things happen, and then all of a sudden it gets worse and there's more of a mess, or it's really disgusting, and then he has to clean that disgusting mess up. And so what he understands is like, you know what, I'm just going to do this when I remember to do it. And that's how you get people to think about the process. Number 2, stay committed to identified strategies. Like I said, don't jump into everything brand new. Stay focused on what works. If the team is not following the strategies, it's the leadership of the team that is at fault. Okay, so if your team is not doing something, if they're not doing what they need to do, it's likely because you failed to get them to actually become engaged and be invested in it. And that's a challenge. That's where you have to go back and get people to go, you know what, I told you to do this, but why do you think I asked you to do that? And let them answer. Okay, and really see where they are, because once they start connecting the dots, that's when they really start to get it, and that's when people just start doing what they need to do. All right, I don't know if you've ever known this, but if you've ever grown up on a farm or visited a farm and they have electric fence, the reason it's there is because it sends out a little shock every once in a while, right? And it's a strategy that works really well at keeping things. Even, what's fascinating is that they only have to get shocked once or twice, horses, cows, goats, whatever they are. And then literally you could turn the fence off, and because of that, they know that it's going to shock them, and so they're afraid of it. It's the same thing with elephants at the circuses and stuff, which it's unfortunate, but how they do it is they chain them to they take a cuff and they chain it to their foot, and then they let the elephant try and struggle for as long as they want to try and get rid of that. And then once they finally give up, because everything always gives up, right? Then they can basically tie a rope around the elephant's leg, and the elephant won't even try because it's given up. And so, you've got to watch that, because, a lot of times we do things and we don't know why we do things. So if you can get people to understand why we do things, they'll be more likely to actually do it and follow through. And then the third part is formalize decision makings for new ideas. Implement a decision-making process for suggesting new ideas, how they get submitted, reviewed, and approved or rejected. Communication is the key. So if you're going to allow people to come up with these new ideas and share them, let's put together a process so that it's just not a whole bunch of new ideas. Like, you've got to get people to really understand this and make it a process. And I used to think, okay, this sounds too corporate-y, until I was, I got to be able to witness an organization where they had their own bylaws. They were so big. And you know what? It's how big do you want to think? Do you want to start thinking about your own organization and your own team in a big way? It may not seem like much now if you've only got like a few hundred people, or maybe even 10 or 15. But when you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people in your organization, then you're going to have to start thinking in these bigger contexts. And so why not start thinking now? And maybe that gives you the ability to hold the space to create that for yourself. So, think about, all these kind of big ideas, and say to yourself, you know what? It is possible. It is possible that one day I could be standing in front of 10,000 people, my own team, my organization within another company. And you're going to have to be able to go through the process of doing some of these things to make sure that people don't get distracted by the flavor of the month, right? So let's get into this, okay? Take action now. These are the 3 steps in the back of this chapter of chapter 47. I'm sorry about the top again. Chapter 47, how to avoid the flavor of the month syndrome. So number 1, have a written, documented strategic plan that clearly articulates the organization's core strategies. So you're going to basically make sure that everybody understands this system, and you're going to communicate it, either be a training or maybe just phone call, whatever it is, and communicate that plan through a structured process. So have a way of describing this and having people go through this process to really understand what it is that's there in this now. Okay. So, and also too, that's another great thing. When people understand that there's a strategy or a system in place, they stop looking, because they know that they just have to do this thing in order to achieve the success that they want. And so that's why you have to let people know that it's in place. Number 2, give your team this test. Ask them to write down the organization's core strategies without consulting anyone. And now I'm going to say this because I realize you'll go ask these people and then you won't even know the correct answer. So think about this and make sure that you prepare what you feel is the answer before asking them, or you will appear unprepared. So think about that. If you go to your team and say, hey, you know what is our organization's core strategy? Like, what is it that we need to do in order to create success in our business? And then find out what they say. Find out what they see as the core strategy, and then you'll probably start to identify why certain people have success and certain people do not have success. Number 3, write and distribute guidelines to encourage and assess new ideas. So, again, thinking big, thinking of one day that you're going to have thousands of people on your team or that you're going to be working with. And so you're going to need to have guidelines and make sure that your things don't get out of hand. And so put together guidelines to encourage and assess these new ideas. You must relate all new ideas to the core strategies of a team. So when you have this process, let them know, hey, if you've got a new idea, you've got to show us how this aligns with our current core strategies for the team. Okay, so make them put the work into it. Again, this is that process of getting them engaged, and if it's a really great idea, you've got people that are really involved and invested in this and are going to create it. Well, that's it, and I appreciate the time today. Let's pay it forward by leaving a comment below on what you're most grateful for in your life today. and what you've learned from this webinar. Thank you, and I'm grateful for your leadership. Showing up is the first step, and today I'm grateful for this amazing weather in Florida, and that I'm picking up a friend of mine at the airport. Going to be staying here for a couple of weeks. Really excited, and I look forward to spending some time with somebody I haven't seen in like 10 years probably. So I'm grateful for that today. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and have a great week.